Welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Community Report 34, Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. This report was produced on the 12th of September 2021, if you're watching this in the future, and it is a very interesting report. And as you can see down below with the picture, they've actually now issued a roadmap. This is what's covered in the first paragraph. There's a lot in this roadmap and to go through and talk about. Rather than just read through the first part of the report, one going to do is skip forward and talk about some of the mechanics which they are going to be releasing in October 21. But if you follow the timeline round, you'll see that there's at the bottom here, it says December 2022. And what the devs are actually saying that is their target for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic to move out of early access into full release. So they've set a pretty ambitious target, and you can see that there is actually regular updates. What I want to do is just move down to here, and what we'll do is go through the second part of the report, and then I'll come back up to the top part. It says the next month has been mentioned in our roadmap is the October 2021. We want the GUI update to be ready not only for public testing, but you may already know what it will be included in that because we have shown some images of the new GUI. There will also be a government loyalty update and secret police implemented, and you will finally have some use for those great black Soviet personal cars. We'll also give additional function to other personal cars too. And we'll probably see a lot of new monuments created by the community as they will have their use in the Republic too. And of course, that's a direct reference to the new loyalty mechanic, which was covered in the previous community report. Now, the next picture is actually of the new building called an orphanage, but I will come back to the pictures. I just want to read what the devs are saying down below first. Besides that, we will introduce a new kind of building with certain groups of citizens. Until now, parents died, their children died together with them. Never knew that. But this update will give you opportunity to build orphanages and take care of children who lost their parents. These children will become residents in orphanages, and your workers will care about them, raising them up and giving them what they need to become the future of your successful republic. You need to provide food and clothes for them, and they will thrive. Additionally, if their tutors will be loyal, they will follow their example and become your loyal workforce as they grow up. Now, this is actually two pictures. I'll just click on the first one first. This is obviously a picture of an orphanage. Pretty big building by the look of it, and it looks pretty modern as well. So hopefully the modders will get in straight away and provide a variety of sizes. And if we just take a quick look at the screen here, again, this is 40 tutors. Wow, that's a lot of tutors for children. Now, my immediate reaction to this is that what you may have to do is balance the tutors to the number of children, because this could be a relatively small number, which could grow depending on your economy, because obviously the children would have to be in range of an orphanage. So this isn't going to be something you're going to put down similar to schools or something. You may have to accept the loss of some of these children, unless of course like they've got the similar mechanic to over 21s, that the children's will move across the map to be able to get to these orphanages. No, because that's a lot of tutors. It's because we've now got this new option in the center here where we can set the loyalty of the tutors. And what you probably would need to do if you're using orphanages, you would probably want to push this up a little bit so that the tutors coming in here do ensure that these children, when they grow up, do have a higher loyalty. And of course, down the bottom here, we've got food, clothes, and meat. By the sidebar, I'd guess that there's something a bit further down, which would probably be electronics and other information. What I will say with this is that this orphanage is effectively operating as a shop, so we're going to have to deliver food, clothes, meat, and possibly electronics to it as well. I'm not so sure that this would be something I would want to use in an early game. Maybe later on, once the population is growing. It's also going to be interesting to see how this operates in the age range of the children and how that relates to education, because in some ways this is also functioning as a school, isn't it? Because you've got tutors in here. So that is something that we'll need to look at going forward. Moving down to the next paragraph, it says, of course, as it is with other added stuff, we encountered some issues like 1-year-old tutors taking care of their inmates in the orphanage. But do not be afraid, the word inmate was a temporal phase for orphanage residents. This information can show you some bits of issues we need to deal with during the development process. There are people who often ask the question, why do you not fully debug existing features of the game before adding new ones? Our answer for that of them is that with every addition into the game, we run the risk of something already implemented may break. This means we may spend hours fixing something, and then after adding new stuff, we need to do it again. That is a waste of time, and does not mean that we will not fix critical issues, though. It just means that we will keep adding new features first to be able to debug the game at later stages in the development process. I mean, this is very much the software development dilemma, especially when you're creating something like a game where you're releasing regular updates. There is this cycle that you put something in, it looks quite a small change, I know from experience, and suddenly the whole application goes unstable, and then you've got to trace back, and quite often it traces back to some simple parameter that was set up kind of months or even years before that new feature was added. But it can be incredibly frustrating to actually find those bugs. I know from experience of spending days, even weeks, trying to find a very simple bug. And of course, one of the annoying things with software development, you sit there and you're looking for this bug, and then your colleague comes along, looks over your shoulder and says, it's just there, right there. And you kind of think, I've been looking at this for months and I didn't see it. And then you want to bang your head on the table and say, why didn't I see that? Anyway, let's just get back to the next section. And we've got a couple of pictures here related to distribution offices and bus stops. It says, now let us mention some of the small improvements we've made during the past weeks. You may be familiar with the list of vehicles shown in the window for platforms and other stations. We changed it and we now see the list of lines connected instead of the list of vehicles. Another thing we have added is that you will see the number of tasks connected to the distribution office when you open the window. Yes, I really like that, because that's one of my big bugbears, that I look at a distribution office and true, it highlights what's connected, but you never know how many spare slots you've got. And I think that will make a big difference with when you're trying to balance up distribution offices and to see whether they're overloaded or not. Limit will remain 20 for one distribution office, and we suggest you use more than one if you need to work more than 20 facilities. Truthfully, if you're running more than 20 facilities, except for maybe in farming, you're probably overloading a distribution office anyway. We are quite happy with updated profitability of tourism after running some tests, and it seems to work as it was intended. It will not be the industry that will serve as a golden goose, and it will not be good as an all-in early game strategy, for its profitability is dependent on a lot of your ability to produce supplies for tourist facilities. You may get a little bit more than you would export for those resources and use the industry to make money using workforce, mainly without polluting your cities. Then we are happy to tell you that we have started to work on building mirroring, as we consider it's an important feature based on the feedback received from your players. Mirroring, interesting. The current update is not available on internal branch yet. We have done a lot of pre-internal testing. We were able to fix plenty of issues that way. There is still some work to do, so we need to wait for a few weeks until the update will be available for public testing. Please stay patient until we take care and stay tuned for the next report. I really like their attitude to developing, that they're not being rushed into making a release when they're not ready. Anyway, I think just to wind off this section, let's take a quick look at these pictures. This is the new distribution office. You can see it says manage office tasks 19 out of 20. Now it's a small change, but it's very significant. I mean, it will make managing distribution offices a lot easier. As I say, one of my bugbears is, especially if you've got a distribution office covering a big area, like a massive farm, trying to work out how many slots left you can do to make changes has always been a bit of a pain. And then if we move back to the bus stop here, and I think I had an example where this feature would have been very useful, because I was trying to swap over a lot of dumpers from a store to an unloading bay, and being able to see the individual routes and the number of vehicles on each route will make quite a big difference there as well. So I think that would be quite useful. So we just go there. Now we go back to the big one. So we'll just go up to the top here. And what I'm going to do is just read the first paragraph so that you can get a flavour of where the tips are coming from. And then for the rest of the video, we're just going to be looking at the roadmap here. There's greetings, dear comrades of the Soviet Republic. We are back again with a new report about the current state of the development process. Sometimes it looks like we are making only small steps and you cannot see significant progress. These small steps lead to the goal of our journey, which is a great product, the game we all love. Besides the usual fixes and tweaks during the past weeks, we've been focusing more on the overall vision of where we want the game to be when it will be fully released. We made plans, and now we have a clear roadmap with a certain deadline in it, and the ultimate deadline is the end of the year 2022. So they're literally planning now all the releases right through for what, 15 months is probably the way, so, which is really great because that's going to give us something to talk about when we want to be the game ready for the broad gaming public. It will be a long ride through though, as we need to work hard because we intend to introduce quite a few content updates, introduce new mechanics, and add some new things from what we were asking for. We think we can do it and make this game one of the best games of its genre out there. I think they're well on the way to doing that anyway. And I think just down the bottom here, it just confirms that they are looking for the 1.1 release. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to bring the screen up. Now, I'm aware that the print on here is going to be very small. I'll try and get it as big as possible. And you can see what we've got here is a clear series of steps now to go right through to December 2022. When they plan to actually release this out of early access. Now, the next thing is that you can see that each of these updates is color coded. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but right up in the right hand corner here is a legend. And I'll be honest, I can hardly read this as well. And what I'll do is I'll just go right through it. It says the yellow is new buildings, the blue is new vehicles, the green is new interface, the kind of purplish color like down here is, it says new mechanics, the black or very dark color here says technical improvements, and then the gray, it says game experience in improvements. I think that's what it says. I can hardly read the text. So that gives you an idea that the various updates that are going to run through, and I think it's worth noting, if you look very quickly at the months, what we're looking at is some form of update every 2 months, isn't it? Well, there's 1 month between the first two, then was it January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So yeah, so it's going to be an update every 2 months. What we'll do first is just talk about the first one in October, because we obviously know a lot about. It says one unified build menu, rich info panel on top, new mod listings. That's the new feature where we'll be able to see the mods better. There's more vehicles in buildings, zip saves, orphanage buildings, secret police, and loyalty system enabled, which is the overall mechanic. So that is the update we're very familiar about. I'm not going to talk much about that. So skipping forward to December, you can see we got prison buildings, justice buildings, new police cars, modding tool, scenario for scripting. That is a very interesting addition, and it's a technical addition, but I'm not going to talk much about that because I think that relates to what's coming in February. And so it means in December we're going to get the new justice system, and I'm kind of interested in the fact it says new police cars. So I do wonder whether the actual justice system will be separate from the secret police related to loyalty. So these would be two separate mechanics, where before I've always assumed that this would be a combination mechanic, although alternatively it could be that the policing is just an extension of the loyalty mechanic, because they're not listing this as a new mechanic. So we'll just have to see on December. Now, moving on to February, it says, and I'll just read the top here now. It says cosmonaut mode, scenarios, water and sewage. I think the February update is going to be a really big update. Now, the one that does get me is the fact that it says at the top here, cosmonaut mode in vanilla. And I think that is possibly a follow-on from the modding tool scenarios for scriptings. I would guess that what their devs are planning is an opportunity to introduce scenarios for starts into the game, and that's the reason why they're saying cosmonaut mode in vanilla. So what it would mean is, rather than have what we have in the current system, which is an agreed set of rules, what you will be able to do is script in, I would guess, because it's the keyword down here, is by scenarios by scripting. So what they're going to allow modders to do is script in, possibly on a custom map, the conditions that will relate to a scenario. And I have to admit, I'm going to be very interested in that feature. So we're going to move down now to water systems and reservoirs, sewage system and substations, people needs for water and sewage systems. Now this is going to be a big one, and it's going to be a potential massive game changer. And I think in February it could also be a save breaker, similar to what happened when Seasons was introduced. And what I will say is that the devs do introduce this. What they need to do is treat water in the same way as electricity with when someone starts the game, that you should be able to select what option you want, whether you want no water, simple water, or advanced water, the same way as say electrical power or the fuel system works, because this is going to prove a big challenge. Now, the next thing I'm taking is from the second line with substations. I do wonder whether the water system is going to be distributed like the electricity system, that you will need substations that connect the buildings, which means we're going to need to build pipelines, and I'm assuming that they will be underground. Could be very interesting, and as I say, it is a potential save game breaker, that if you have a massive economy built up and then suddenly you've got to try and get pipelines under everything, and that has the potential for collisions in building. Also, it'd be quite an interesting challenge to put a complete water system underneath an existing economy. Now, my main concern with this is where the water is going to come from, because it says water systems and reservoirs. Now, I'm hoping that there will be options to take water from, let's say, rivers that are nearby. But of course, many maps are really big. So what you're probably going to need is reservoirs, which could be hypothetically filled from anywhere, or wells. Now, one feature I would like to see with this actual water system, and possibly even the sewage system, is a building which is local. So similar to, say, the wind turbines in the electricity supply. So what you have is possibly a local well, and I'm pretty sure the modding community will have some fun with the outhouses, so that these buildings could actually service the local community rather than having to go straight into pipeline systems. But I don't want to get too much into this, because what I'm talking about is just my pure personal speculation, and we've still got a long way to go. We've got April now brings in underground metro stations, railway metro stations, connectivity, new metro trains to tunnel connections. So this is going to be very much a transport update. Now, the devs have already talked a little bit about this, and again, it's going to be a big update, but I don't feel it's going to be a save game breaker, simply because this is optional. You could whether you use it or not is totally up to the player. And I do really like the idea of this, especially if it's going to be possible to get some range, because a good example I'm thinking of at the moment is say my Four Corners series, where I'm building a series of villages. If it's possible at some time in the future of the campaign, say in the mid to late game, that you could connect all those villages up with one underground metro system, that would be absolutely brilliant. So we're going to move on to the June update. It says here, researchers and mod incorporation. There's medical university researches, technical university researches, Soviet party researches. Now this is under new game mechanics. Now this could mean that either they're going to add the option for new research, which then would fit back to possibly the scenarios, or whether they're going to add new research that might open up new technologies. It says new buildings from mods. Now I do like this idea, because this is something that if any of you play Imperium, the devs have done in Imperium. They've brought in buildings created by the modding community and incorporated it into the game. And if we move down to the next section, it says additional new small, medium and big building variations. I think this is where the devs could draw on what's currently in the modding community. There's a whole raft of residential buildings, industrial buildings, and it'd be brilliant to see the devs pull those into the actual vanilla game. And I think that would be a great step forward. It says new vehicles from mods as well. Again, there's lots of really good looking vehicles, which would be brilliant if they could be brought into the game as well. So the June could be quite an interesting update, and although I'm fascinated about the actual research there and how that will affect some of the game mechanics. Then in August, waste management, waste collecting buildings, waste processing buildings, new garbage trucks, new residential building needs. Of course, that means that the residents will now need garbage collection. Again, this is going to be an interesting mechanic to implement because, I mean, obviously we have garbage trucks, and of course, where is the garbage actually going to be disposed of? Because, and of course, that opens up the possibilities of green technology and recycling. Of course, what we're probably going to start with landfills, and I'll be interested to see whether they actually produce pollution. So that could be an interesting update as well. But again, I don't want to get too much into this, otherwise this video is going to get too long. And then we move on to October 2022. And as you can see, it says new kind of tutorial, easier to start with game. Now, I do agree with the fact that the devs do need to look at the tutorials if they are going to present a formal release to the overall gaming community, because, but I would guess, but by now the game would be incredibly complex. Therefore, you're going to need more than what's currently in there at the moment. It says, so moving down to the next section here, it says Western vehicles in each category from 1960 to 1990. Many of the Western trains, ships, and helicopter aeroplanes. Now, this is yellow, but it's related to vehicles. So I'm not sure if that is actually a mistake, and it should be blue. Now, I could do a vast speculation on what this actually means, but my initial instinct is that what the devs are planning in preparation for the full release is to beef up the available Western vehicles in the vanilla game so that it would be possible to play on the NATO side of the map from the get-go and develop a full economy. So then it opens up the opportunity, which some people are already doing at the moment, which is creating Western totalitarian states that would then use the mechanics of the Soviet Republic. And I think that will add a very interesting dimension to the game as well. And of course, moving on there, it says out of early access. Names game experience polishing, FX finalizations, that's sound effects, performance optimizations, translation of fine tuning, text alignment, and polishing. So the final December 2022 release will be the big release where the game leaves early access. That brings us to the end of the timeline, and I think it's worth noting that the devs are also saying that this isn't a definitive list of features. These are going to be the primary features. There's going to be other elements added in as they go along. Now, but just to wind this video up, what I'd like to say is that the devs here have set themselves a very ambitious timetable, and I think they're going to need all the support they can get from the community, both positive and negative, because this is going to be a very tough schedule. I know from experience from my working in software development, they are going to be really up against it, especially with some of the really big features like adding water and possibly the underground and waste collection. I do like where they're going because it shows that they are responding to the community, and I can see that they're really planning on taking the game in several new directions. And I do really like the idea of scenarios, because as some of you who follow the channel, be aware that I do early start series, and the scenario scripting could feed in very much into early start, and although technically it's outside the range of the normal vanilla game. I do really like what the devs are planning on doing, and I could probably go on for another hour just talking about these updates, but I know I've got to stop. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Any comments, opinions, feel free to chuck it in the comments and we'll have a bit of a chat about it. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.